You're listening to the Action Mappers Podcast, a podcast for visionaries who think deeply, dream big, and need a visual path forward. I'm Tamar Stoltz, and I'm here to help structure your mental chaos so you can finally take aligned, confident action. In each episode, I sit down with incredible guests who share their insights, tips, and tricks so that together we can go from overthinking to aligned action mapping. It's time to get clarity, take action, and become unstoppable. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Action Mappers Podcast. I'm super excited to be here with you. I am here with my new glasses, and for some reason decided I was going to try to go without the blue shield protection thing. And as I'm looking at myself, I'm realizing that, either I should have gone with it or I need to change up the lights. So you'll forgive me if I'm taking my glasses on and off. Today is a really exciting day for me. For those of you who have been following along, you know that I made the switch over to Substack a couple months ago from school, and I've been really enjoying every minute of being on the platform. There are so many amazing things about it, but really, I think what sticks out the most is the incredible people who are on that platform. And today, you will all have the opportunity to hear from one of my number one role models on that platform, Claire Venus. Thank you so much, Claire, for taking the time to be with us today.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's so nice to be here.
It's really an honor, I have to say. Claire is someone that I found almost immediately when I joined Substack. She is a Substack expert, in addition to an engagement consultant and a writer. But Claire is really one of those genuine, authentic people on Substack that I came across, I think probably the first week. And I was like, Claire is someone I need to get to know because she is doing incredible work. So I do not want to steal your thunder here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Claire, and who you are, what you do, and kind of how you got to where you're at?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, thanks so much. So I'm here on the Northumberland coast in the UK, and a few years back, I set a goal to work more online and reach more international audiences. I was super keen to understand how to diversify my tiny little rural world. I have a background in festivals and events, and I absolutely loved my career in arts and culture, but it was very driven by ego at times. It was very feast and famine when it came to funding bids and how we were going to pull off projects and all of that sort of stuff. And actually, when I became a mum, I became quite kind of worn out by the feast and famine cycle. So diversifying my work and reaching international audiences just helped me to think about things more expansively. And I was so excited to diversify into more entrepreneurship. So I definitely tried to sort of reclaim this chapter of my life as a mum entrepreneur, not in the boss babe way, in a more kind of aligned and grounded way where I just wanted to be there to, pick the kids up from school and to kind of be a really present mother while also working on my dreams. And I felt like the door was closing for me on the arts and cultural scene. Budgets were being squeezed. Everything just felt like there was so much lack and scarcity. And I was like, but the world is so expansive and exciting. So in 2020, I launched my first ebook in the worldwide pandemic while I was pregnant with my daughter. And I haven't really looked back since then. So 2022, I found Substack and I was like, okay, cool, a place for long form writing. I'm going to monetize my newsletter or I'm going to monetize my articles. I'm not sure, but I'm going to give it a go. And at that point, it was a platform for writers. It was articulated that way by its founders. It was still in its startup phase. I think it kind of launched in 2017. So just a few years in, and it was a very quiet space. There weren't very many people from the UK there. And I found that for me, there was a real opportunity to self-express, but not be worried about who was reading it from my life, my friends, my family, people who knew me in my previous career, that I just had some real space. And things just went from strength to strength. So really from self-expression and talking about, having a baby in a pandemic and all of that kind of space of my work being cancelled and us not being able to get out to kind of go to festivals and events and be part of that whole scene. Just the kind of transition through a quieter time of going, online isn't actually as noisy as people might have thought because you can carve out your own space. So I think I was writing on Substack for around about a year and they started rolling out quite a few changes. and in quite quick succession. So I started this series called Stay Creative on Substack. So it was kind of a reassuring series to help the writers who were kind of panicking because they didn't want the social media-esque elements. They were really struggling to understand how to kind of brand up their Substack and make it their own, to make it stand out. So I just had this beautiful little series for them. And then it just really took off. And so I launched Sparkle on Substack, which is my Substack education space and membership. And that was really around that time was really the moment where I felt like I've done it now. Like, this is it. This is what it means to be able to reach an international audience in one platform, yes, but also across multiple platforms and have the confidence to stand behind it. So yeah, a bit of a whistle stop as to the timeline and the journey. But all in all, I think, yeah, I do describe myself as an engagement consultant and mentor. I am a Substack expert and I proudly wear that title. I love to support people to find their voice. And I love having conversations like this. So I'm delighted to be here.
Wow. That's so awesome. That's so amazing. So you really, I mean, you really were a pioneer. I mean, you said Substack, did they officially launched in 2017?
Yeah. And I was there 2022. So April 2022, I'd seen a writer called Emma Gannon tweet about Substack, and the very same week my husband mentioned it, and he said, "You know how I like to be an early adopter of platforms?" He said, "I really think we should get on Substack and be writers." And I was like, "Okay, cool, let's do it." So that's what we did.
So interesting. Wow. That's awesome. So, okay, so for our listeners who are not as familiar with Substack or who have started to hear about it, right? Because it looks very different, probably. I mean, for sure, it looks very different, from when you joined. For me, I joined almost a little over a year ago. But my relationship was basically I was publishing this podcast. So I came in once a week. I wrote up, the show notes, and I hit publish, and it sent it out to all the different platforms. And maybe I would check, the stats maybe like once, and that was basically it. Like, I don't think I did anything more than that. So I technically, like, my publication says like I've been on the platform since November of 24, but I really only started using it like the past couple months as a platform. So like I'm very curious to hear, how you explain Substack to somebody who is hearing about it now for the first time.
I love that question. And it's evolved so much over time. Like, for me, it feels like the most incredible marketplace. Like, if you could imagine like your favorite Christmas market, those are coming up really soon. Or if you've gone and traveled internationally and you stumble across a market and you are just hit with the most incredible artisans, crafty people, jewelry makers, journal makers, all of that sort of stuff. And I guess for us, it's more in that creative expression scope and space. So the writers, but like the podcasters as well, right? The people who are curious about their voice, the artists that want to use a long form based platform. There are people as well who are now coming to Substack who use video. So they're kind of leading with video based content, which we definitely didn't see back in 2022. Video was just in beta testing in 2022. So I did use it a little bit, but I was still getting my own confidence around video. Whereas now you'll see really confident creators come in and be like, okay, like, I'm going to create something really intimate for my paid subscribers. I'm going to create something that's like a Patreon for paid subscribers. So people have kind of found their own language with what they want to do. And Substack massively encouraged that. So they call it a new engine for culture. So a new engine for creators to be paid, for writers to be paid, for us to own who our audience are rather than be kind of on borrowed land, I guess, on platforms. And even though it is a platform, we get to keep the email addresses of the people that subscribe to us. So we can download those, and we do have that direct relationship where we can send an email and know that we can definitely reach people and we're not slave to an algorithm that likes what we do. So that feels really, really refreshing. I think what I really want to say, it is a blank space. One of the things I say is, don't follow and subscribe to too many people when you first arrive. Just allow your voice to come out in the way that it wants to, because I had that experience and I really recognize how precious that was. I think if I arrived now, I'd probably be quite stunned. I'd probably be a rabbit in the headlights. I don't know if I would go on to do the prolific things that I have, So there's that real kind of sensitivity too, because the platform's shifted and changed so much. It's not like you have to be elbows in, but I think you do have to really own your voice and your space before you start treating it like a social media and connecting. Maybe that's not true for everyone, but I just feel like we know what social media is. We know it's fun to like follow the names and follow the celebs and follow the people that we like, but then very quickly we are consuming before we create. And I just think it's such medicine to give ourselves the space to create.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned social media, and I feel like there are in my mind, I think the way that I viewed it when I joined, it was a much more quieter, like, I'm not even sure I thought of it as social media. Did they have, I mean, I don't know if you can like share this. I mean, I don't know how much like, behind the scenes of Substack, but do you know, like, was there an official algorithm from the beginning?
Yeah, so it was really based on the explore page. So when you press the little magnifying glass, like it'll take you to your explore page. And so there were staff picks. I don't know whether they're still there actually, but the staff, this was at a time, the main statistics that came out around the time that I started was there was around about 10,000 writers on the platform, like including me, like such small numbers. So the staff would go through and like highlight articles that have been written, and then you would go on the explore page and you would see those. So we would see a bump in subscriber views, views generally, and a bump in subscribers if our articles had been picked out by staff, or if some sort of algorithm in the background was saying, yeah, this is one to listen to. So I wrote one called Is Substack a Side Hustle? And that was the first time where I had an absolute influx of people come into my space. And it was so interesting to me because at that time, nobody was really talking about how much they got paid. And I was really passionate about figuring out if this was a viable income stream for people. Like, was it a side hustle? Could it replace, book publishing for writers? Was it something that felt sustainable with all the subscriber churn that we see in memberships? So I'd done this like little bit of an investigatory piece based on the things people said, because we didn't have numbers. You won't believe it, but we didn't have numbers on our profile at that time. So you really had no idea how many subscribers people had. So these are the social media-esque things that have come in later. So you can see I have 16,000 subscribers. You can see that. And I'm proud of it. So I don't turn it off. You can turn it off. You can see that I'm a Substack bestseller with over 101 paid subscribers, because I choose to have that check mark next to my name because I'm proud of it. It's that kind of social proof for me, whereas some writers choose to turn it off. So yeah, there was a gentle algorithm. It felt very generous. And, when Notes first launched, and even still now, you can have nice chats with the co-founders. They're there. You can chat to Jared, you can chat to Hamish, you can chat to Mills, you can respond to the notes that they're putting out. And they put quirky stuff and like life stuff. They're passionate about writing, and they're very good writers as well. So it feels more like, it feels different to the social medias that we've been used to, where we don't actually really know. And I think there is like a negativity between creators and platforms, just because creators start to feel really used by platforms, and yet, like a ball and chain is stuck. They don't know how to like change things and get off. Whereas Substack does feel refreshing and different. And it does feel like the creator economy is being taken care of much more kindly and in a much more aligned way than it was before with Substack. It's definitely been my experience when I connect with people who have had other experiences on other platforms. If people have been huge on LinkedIn and burn out from that, or they've come from corporate and they've come into Substack that way, or they've been YouTubers, or they've been Instagram influencers and they want to try something different. It's so interesting to me to hold them in all of that, because what platforms enable us to do is get better boundaries around our work, how we want to show up, how we want to hold community. So yeah, it's just so interesting. I think now it is harder with the algorithms because they just feel more prevalent than they did. But I think I'm very sensitive. So I think I've never really liked algorithms that much. I've never really liked an algorithm telling me whether I'm good or not. And then when we see loads of notes written by ChatGPT, it's hard because I'm like, that's blatantly been written by ChatGPT, which is like, fine, you know, people are using it as time saving, but it's like, but I want to hear your voice and I can't hear it if ChatGPT wrote it, right? So for me, I feel like there's a real opportunity for depth of connection. There's a real opportunity to slow down the attention economy, slow down the scroll, and really get to know people and connect in. And that's the other side of Substack. Like, we ended up connecting and chatting about it, didn't we? I think via Instagram voice notes. But I just think that's what we need to get back to, rather than vanity metrics of this, that, and the other. And like, the algorithm sent my note viral, or the algorithm sent my Instagram reel viral. That's just pretty short-lived, I think, for people.
For sure. Wow, so good. Yeah, I mean, because there was so much like hype and talk about like the new algorithm, I feel like in the like past, I don't even know, 6 months, 7, 8 months. And I thought it was so interesting. Like, I guess it's interesting to see like how the platform, and especially like as somebody who's been on it, since before Notes, I mean, it's probably really interesting to see how it evolves and how, you know, I guess technology in general, right? It's like how everything, is progressing, and how does that align with who we are as creators and the work that we're trying to do. And it's so fascinating. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts then about, like we talk a lot about alignment on this podcast, and really just understanding, who we are, either as a person or as a company, as a business, who we are and what it is that we're trying to do to make sure that the decisions that we're making in the direction that we're going in is really aligned with our core values and the ultimate, goal that we're trying to achieve, whatever that might be. And I'm definitely curious to hear your thoughts about just in general, when it comes to writing, and when it comes to, I guess, Substack or wherever people are writing, this topic of alignment, right? And the things that self-expression, I feel like it's so hard, especially with ChatGPT and all the other AI engines or helpers. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts about how we can stay focused on using our voice and tapping into our own, self-expression from our inner self, while utilizing, AI as a tool, but not to replace, to enhance, to make sure that our writing and our work stays aligned with, who we are and our core values.
Yeah, and I love ChatGPT, don't get me wrong. Like, I use it every day. I love it, and I think it's just, for me, it's just, we're constantly evolving with what we can use it for and how it can help us. Like, I love it for podcast summaries because my conversations go all over the place, especially with a guest. So I love to be like, pull out the summary, and then I'll say AI summary. Like, I'm going to tell my audience, I'm not going to sit through and curate what the summary of the whole podcast is, because that's going to stop me from doing my work, right? The work that I really want to do. And I think that goes back to your point about alignment. I think, I've given myself so many permission slips over the years when it comes to creating, whether that's because budgets have been tight, or whether that's because of the space that I'm working in. And now online, it's like all the rules are made up, so we get to do what we want. So yeah, for me, it's like, I can say and be really transparent that this is an AI summary and feel completely aligned in integrity about that, because I want to do the work that I want to do. Like, I want my book to be out this year and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's just so much with that. I feel like Notes was a really interesting human experiment, because what happened to start with was there'd been a beta test that I wasn't in. I have been in quite a few beta tests for Substack, but I wasn't in this one. I think it was mainly just the American writers, and they'd all been having like a lovely 2 weeks trying out Notes, and they'd all been sharing photos of their pets. So it was like Pet Stack, right? So everybody just shared photos of their cats and their dogs. So when they put it live, we were all just like, why is everybody talking about their pets so much? It was like this funny little in joke. And then obviously people were sharing all sorts, like poetry, prose. There was very little in the way of like business entrepreneurial type content. It was just more like pure writing. Like, it was just like loads of gorgeous writing. And then there would be people who use the photographic opportunity to sort of make collections. So people are like, okay, like, this is the word, collect photographs across your week, and then I'm going to share some more. So they're like all of these cute little community projects going on. And then it just felt like the LinkedIn crowd arrived, and everything just became like corporate and difficult. It was like, oh, wait, wow. So it's all these worlds colliding of, okay, the LinkedIn crowd are going to say, this is what works on LinkedIn. Let's try it on Notes. And then it started doing really well, and feeding itself. And so there were all of these different algorithms playing out at once. And I know when I was trying to do like gentle education about Substack, like really try and kind of get my messages out there, someone would then do a really angry rant about Substack educators. And at that time, there was like me and one other. And I was like, oh God, they can see me. But like for me, I just really felt like my work was an act of service. So it was so difficult because I was like, oh, well, I'll just have to write then. I can't talk about Substack education because people don't want that. And it's like, well, no, one person doesn't want that, but all of these other people that were subscribing did want that. So there were all of these different things playing out in terms of like steadying ourselves. And there was a definite shift and move and almost like a tidal wave of people moving away from their publications and trying to like get traction on Notes. And I was like, but guys, we know about social media. We know what it is. This is the real space. Like this is the space for the long form self-expression, to get brave around reading your pieces, to sit with editing and really like hone your craft, like let's go back to that. And then Notes can be secondary. So it has been super, super interesting with some of my members who have gone viral. It's been beautiful when it's been linked to their publication, but it's been a nightmare if it's been something left field and they've just kind of thrown a thought up there that like similar that you would do on Twitter or X now. So again, that's been really interesting socially for them, because it was like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. I didn't want thousands of people coming in, but the ones that were aligned with that publication, it blew their business up. So then obviously the word got out even further and people were like, you got to get on Substack Notes because they're going to blow your business up, So then we had all the people trying to blow that business up in front of all the people that were like, can't we just read again? So it's just been such a funny and interesting human experiment in real time for me. Like I've been on that platform every day. I have very few breaks. Like I tend to delete the app for the weekends now. But when it was ferocious and it just felt like I had so much to say and so much to deliver, I was so hooked in. Like I just didn't do any other platforms. I didn't really do any other work. It was like Substack or nothing.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing because we're talking about, Substack specifically, but I think that the point that you're making is so relevant to our listeners because it's really like the model for what people I think are experiencing online in general. This idea of they're passionate about something, they're on a mission to accomplish whatever it is, and there's just all this outside noise, It's like self-appointed gurus telling people what to do. It's colleagues telling them how they should be doing things differently. It's family members with expectations. It's themselves with their own self-critical, judgmental voice inside. It's like it's just noisy. Like it's just, there's stuff coming from all these different directions. I feel like as I'm like picturing, I guess I'm visualizing like this chaotic Substack scene that you're like describing, and to be able to really stay, grounded on 2 feet and focused on what it is we're trying to do without getting sidetracked, but at the same time, while being able to adapt and adjust to the changes that are being made, that could positively impact us in our businesses. I think it's just, yeah.
And it sometimes does feel like a bit of a madness. Like when I take the Substack assets and share them to Instagram and there's very little engagement, I'm like, oh, I'm doing this again. Like, and I'm so aware of it. Like, I'm so aware of it, but yet I still do it because Instagram is like a shop window and we can connect there as well. And I'm just always second guessing, like, actually, do I just delete Instagram again and just do more Substack, like do more lives, do more connection? Like, how do I want my weeks to look? And so because we are in this place of like reflecting on the year that's gone by, and it's been like quite a politically charged year in lots of ways for the US and the UK, so we've been fed a lot of information about stuff that we wouldn't necessarily have sought out, so for me, as I'm reflecting, I'm like, how do I just get my week calmer? So if I am online, okay, like I'm online to do a thing, but then I'm offline. So there's always that balance piece for me. And I definitely over the last few years, I've got it really right. And then I've got it really wrong. And I think as a cyclical being as well, like sometimes I just do feel reactive. You can't help it. Like the internet is there to make us feel reactive. And I would never be reactive in my professional stance. But sometimes it feels like I have to process huge things because of what I've experienced online. There's so many dynamics play out all the time. And then you're like, or I just close the laptop and leave my phone upstairs and then I'm back in my life, you know?
Yeah, I know that. That resonates. 100%. I mean, you're touching on a lot of really amazing things, but one thing I want to pull out is this theme of calm, feeling calm, right? I heard you say calm, and just being able to focus on ourselves. I'd love to hear like a little bit more about this balance, because I think it's for sure speaks to me, and I'm sure for those people who are tuning in, finding that balance. What does that balance look like? Remembering that there is a balance, and that our poor nervous systems need that balance.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's about connection. So I'm an introvert. So if I was still working in festivals and events and still living in the city, I'd be exhausted. I'd be burnt out. I know I would. Whereas actually being able to work somewhere, like we've got a view of the sea here, we're right on the Northumberland coast, so I can see the ocean. I can go to the ocean. I can go for walks with the dog. I can listen to audiobooks on the school run, so it's all of those things of like, I'm just in my life, I can cook without having any input and any noise. I don't need to be self-developing myself all the time to know that I have things to say and that I can hold space for others. So I think there's a deep sense of knowing yourself and having confidence in yourself that comes from showing up to the practice. So for me with Sparkle, it was like I just had this huge vision about having a complete A to Z for my members. So they would be able to go in and there'd be an A to Z. So any question they had could be answered through a tutorial or a post that held them at whatever time that they came, so whichever time zone they were in or wherever they came to my work. And so the first year was about delivering the vision. And then the year after that was about taking them deeper into their own creative practice and holding them as business owners. Because for me, my business could have took off in a myriad of different ways, but it took off because of Substack. I had other income streams, but they were small. And then all of a sudden it was all Substack. And I was like, okay, so like I've learned so much in such a short timeline about being an entrepreneur, about being a business owner. I really want to pass on some of that sparkle and some of that kind of wisdom to try and help people, because it's not everybody's experience that business takes off so quickly. Sometimes it can take a few years, or you put in the things in motion and it's more of a side hustle until you kind of bring it all online. So I really wanted to hold people in that space with the creative self-expression. I get a lot of people who don't want to monetize on Substack at all and are just there for the connections and the long form self-expression. And I love that. We can do all of the beautiful design work together. We can really get into how they want to self-express, how they want to serialize memoir, all that gorgeous stuff. So yeah, there's just a real opportunity, I think, to come to it. And it's harder for the business owners in a way, because they're like, well, I've been running a mailing list for years and I've already got a podcast hosted here. And so how and what shall I do? So it's kind of harder for those folks, I think, but we get there.
Right. Oh, so good. It's really, I think it's really impressive to see how you wear so many different hats, like the hat as a wife, hat as a mom, hat as an entrepreneur and a business owner and a mentor and a consultant and a writer. And it's like, you think about it, it's like, wow, it's a lot, it's like, it's a lot.
Yeah, and it comes from like a deep visceral need to feel safe. Like, I'll be really honest about that. So like I have 9 income streams because that's what's made me feel safe. When I had less, I didn't. And when I had commissioned work, it was so precarious and it was such a large amount of my income that if anything happened, like I'd be so anxious before I would go on calls with commissioners. And all of that space was just like, how do I shift and change this for my family? My husband's been really sick for 5 years. So basically tracks the timeline of my daughter's life. So we both got COVID when I was pregnant with her. I birthed her alone because he wasn't allowed in the hospital. And then he got long COVID and it's affected him really badly. So it's been like, I've just had this like, just like vivacious need to push on these income streams and just get myself so entrepreneurial and secure because I want to take care of my family. And now we're 5 years in, I'm like, great, I've done well. There we go. Right. I know what I'm doing now. All I've got to do now is figure out a way to sustain the 6-figure business. Like I did the thing that I never thought that I would do. In the arts, you taught to not want very much. Like even the CEOs are on like 50, 60 grand UK. And it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hours and a lot of work and a lot of weekends. And I never wanted to be a CEO. I never thought about being an entrepreneur because I didn't think I had the business skills. But when the internet is as generous and as beautiful as it is, and when we can connect in ways like this with amazing platforms and technology, you realize, wow, like we can do things that our grandmothers couldn't even dream of, like this is incredible. So I think I'm just in that space all the time. Like, what's next? This is so expansive and so cool. And it's just keeping yourself grounded in all of that and like holding yourself steady, I think.
Unbelievable. Okay, so that just transitions right into keeping yourself grounded and keeping yourself focused. So can you share with us, like, I don't know, 1 or 2 tips or ideas or concepts that you teach in your programs, or tell us maybe a little bit about what you do in your programs, or you have maybe an upcoming book or just something, just because there's so much wisdom. I mean, I always say this with my podcast guests. I don't know, I'm honored till this day. I mean, I'm doing this for a year, and the people that come on this podcast are so incredibly inspiring and special. So it's just, I always say we could go on for hours, but with the consideration of the time, I would love to hear, for people who are listening, who are saying like, yes, Claire, I love what you're saying. I want this. Like, number 1, how do I get to know you and your programs more? But number 2, how can I implement this? What's like a practical, tangible tool or takeaway piece of advice that you could give to people who are listening, who really, really want what it is that you're describing, but don't know what's the first step to take to get there?
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Tamar. And you're very sweet. Like for me, like I am living in my vision board, right? This call is me inside of my vision board. So like I'm as honored as you are. It's just beautiful. So I guess that's my first tip, like live inside of your vision board. Like, what do you want your days to look like? Start that now. Like start that today. Just write down what that looks like. Like connect to a vision board. If you want to do the collage and the cutting and the sticking, it's not necessarily, it's about travel. It's like, how do you want to feel inside of your life? And then just make those choices every day and see that reflected back. Like, I'm a big believer in the law of attraction and all of that woo stuff. It's like, you've got to see it, you've got to feel inspired by the steps that you're taking even now. And on that same note, if you believe it's all coming, like all of it is coming, and people are so ready to turn around from all over the internet, all over the world, and put their lights on for you and your work, you don't have to push, you just have to trust. So trust is a big theme in my work. And my book this year is called Invisible Trust. So it's memoir led, but it's got some journaling prompts and stuff in there as well. So it's out on pre-order at the moment. And my other programs are all available on my website, which is creativelyconscious.co.uk. And you can join my membership if you are interested in Substack education, and that's Sparkle on Substack, and that exists on Substack. So either of those 2 places, you can find me. I'm on Instagram as well at creatively.conscious. So you can drop me a DM if you've listened to this podcast and you want to carry on the conversation. I'd love to hear from you.
Unbelievable. That's so amazing. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I'm going to, of course, make sure to put all the links in the show notes. But Instagram, would you say Instagram is the best?
Yeah, definitely. You can connect on Instagram or drop me an email. I always love to hear from people and like hear where you are on your journey and what's calling you, and like listen to those calls and let me know, because I'm going to have a program to help. I've been doing this work, and like I said, I've done a lot of it. So there's a lot of resources to help, courses, freebies, all the things. So just let me know what you need.
Unbelievable. So amazing. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Claire. This has been incredible. Living inside the vision board. That is such a powerful way to end off, really. Thank you again for taking time out of your really busy schedule to share your knowledge with us and your wisdom. I'm so inspired. I really, really am. And I know that everybody tuning in and listening feels the same. Be sure to reach out to Claire, let her know what was your biggest takeaway from today's episode, and share with me too. I would love to hear. Join us on Substack. And thank you all for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Action Mappers podcast. If today's episode sparked an idea or gave you clarity, share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a map-worthy moment. Until next time, get clarity, take action, and stay unstoppable.